Welcome, brothers and seekers of the Stoic way, men walking the uncertain path of desire, discipline, and the quiet power of presence. Let me ask you this. In a world flooded with noise, looks, and endless validation, how can you tell when a woman is truly addicted to you, not just attracted, not just interested, but hooked emotionally, psychologically, and often without even knowing why? Most men never notice the signs because they're too busy reacting, too eager to chase, too distracted to see the subtle things women only do when their feelings run far deeper than they'll ever admit. But today, we'll look through the lens of Stoic clarity. We'll slow down, observe, and decode the unspoken behaviors of desire, the kind of desire that doesn't beg for attention, but attaches itself silently, powerfully, and almost invisibly. If you've ever wondered what makes certain men unforgettable, not because of games or gifts, but because of who they are, then stay with me, because this is where modern distraction ends and ancient awareness begins. Join me here on Stoic Love, where we sharpen the mind, master the self, and see through illusion. If you find clarity in these words, subscribe, like, and share your reflections below. Now let us begin with the first sign she's more hooked than she dares to admit. Number 1. Silent loyalty in chaos. She defends you in rooms you're not in without needing proof, only feeling. You never hear her say it. You're not there when it happens. But in the chaos of gossip, judgment, and half-truths, she becomes your sword and shield. Without a word from you, without a promise, without a request, she's the one who speaks up when your name is questioned. Not out of duty, not out of fear, but out of a loyalty that even she doesn't fully understand. It's the kind of defense that isn't loud. She doesn't storm out. She doesn't raise her voice. But in a room of women dissecting you, mocking you, guessing at your flaws, she goes quiet. Her silence says he's different. Her gaze says, you don't know him like I do. And that's the first thing most men miss. They think love is loud. They think addiction is obsession. They think she has to call, text, show up at the door in the rain. But no, when a woman is truly emotionally attached, addicted to who you are at your core, she becomes protective in your absence. She defends not the man everyone sees, but the man she feels. The one who doesn't always explain himself, but who stands for something. The one who stays silent, but whose presence echoes long after he's gone. And it's here the Stoic principle begins to show itself. Because she doesn't fight for a man who chases. She doesn't protect the one who constantly needs to be validated. She protects the one who needs nothing, and by that makes her want to give everything. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." And when you embody that, when your silence holds weight, when your actions carry the consistency of values, you become the kind of man she will defend, even in her most insecure moments. That's the paradox. The less you try to convince her, the more she convinces others of who you are. But you won't know when it happens. You won't hear her words when her friends bring up your past. You won't be there when someone mocks your ambition or misunderstands your quiet. But she'll be there. In that moment, she won't let it slide. Not because she wants to prove something, but because her body speaks the truth. Her pride cannot admit that she feels safe with you, even in your flaws, even in your distance. She knows your silence means something deeper. She sees how you observe the world, not needing to dominate it. She senses that under your detachment is a man who knows himself, and that's what makes her fight for your name in places you'll never be. Not because you earned it, but because you embody it. And most men never see it. They're too focused on what she posts online, what she replies, how fast she texts back. But they never notice how she changes when others speak about you. The test of a woman's addiction isn't in how she treats you when she's happy. It's in how she defends you when no one's watching. And if you live like a Stoic, if your peace can't be shaken by opinion, if your values don't bend to validation, you will trigger this silent loyalty, this hidden defense, this unspoken bond. Because deep down, she's not fighting for you. She's fighting for how she feels when she's with you. A feeling she doesn't want to lose. A calm she cannot explain. A man she cannot replace. And you won't even know until someone tells you months later. She always stood up for you, even when no one else did. Number 2, emotional rebellion for your attention. She picks fights not to hurt, but to feel that she still matters to you. She says something sharp, something out of place. Not cruel, but calculated. It stings not because it's true, but because it comes from her. The one who used to look at you like you were everything. And now she's jabbing at your ego, mocking your beliefs, questioning your motives, and it all feels so sudden. But here's the truth you must feel in your bones. She's not trying to push you away. She's trying to wake you up. She doesn't want to destroy the bond, she wants to shake it. Test it, make sure it's still real. That your silence hasn't turned into indifference. That your strength hasn't become coldness. That her presence still moves you. Because when a woman is addicted, emotionally bound, not by lust, but by soul, she fears one thing more than rejection: invisibility. She can endure your absence. She can bear your boundaries. But what she cannot stand is the thought that she could scream into the void of your life and hear nothing back. So she does what women have done for centuries when they feel unseen by the man they crave. She rebels, not against you, against the silence between you, against the calm that now feels like distance, against the discipline you mastered so well. She wonders if you even feel anymore. She tests not your patience, but your emotions. She wants to feel the flame again, even if it comes in the form of a fight. This is where weak men collapse. They react, they take the bait, they raise their voices, they defend their pride, they throw back the same sharpness. But the Stoic man, he sees through the storm. He sees the fire as a cry, not for control, but for connection. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And so you hold your frame. You don't flinch. You don't explode. You meet her emotion, not with logic, but presence. You don't try to solve her. You feel her. You let her words pass like waves, because underneath them is a woman desperate to feel significant in your eyes again. You look her in the eye and say, "I see you." Even when you're screaming, especially when you're not. And suddenly the chaos loses its grip. She softens, not because you silenced her, but because you held her emotionally through the chaos she created. And in that moment she remembers why you're different, why you're the one she can't stop thinking about, why no matter how far she runs emotionally, she always circles back to you. Because when she picks a fight, what she's really asking is, am I still worth fighting for? And most men fail this test. They think it's about being right or maintaining dominance. But it's about depth. Can you stay centered while she spins? Can you absorb her emotional storm without becoming it? When a woman is addicted, she doesn't just want your body or your praise. She wants your soul's attention. And if she has to provoke it, she will. But if you respond like a Stoic, if your presence remains unshaken, you won't just survive the fight. You'll turn it into a mirror showing her that she matters more than she feared, and that you are more than she ever imagined. Not just a man, a pillar. And that is the kind of man a woman will scream at in the night, only to crave again in the quiet. Number 3. Jealousy disguised as detachment. She pretends not to care, but studies every woman you interact with. She doesn't ask where you've been. She doesn't question the way that woman laughed at your joke. She doesn't flinch when you mention someone else's name. But look closer. Behind the calm mask, she notices everything. the way your tone shifts, the subtle pause when you describe another woman's intelligence, the energy in your voice when you retell a moment that didn't include her. She won't say a word, no confrontation, no breakdown, because addicted women don't beg, they observe, they track. And in silence, they let their insecurity ferment into obsession. You might think she's cool, you might even assume she's lost interest. But what you don't see is the storm beneath that still surface. It's the kind of jealousy that doesn't explode, it seeps into her thoughts, into her late-night comparisons, into her scrolling through the comments under your posts searching for her name and theirs. But she'll never admit it, because women addicted to you, they don't want to appear weak in front of you. Especially not if you're the kind of man who doesn't chase, doesn't reassure, doesn't plead. That's the cost of being the grounded man, the one who isn't easily swayed, who holds his own rhythm. You don't react, you don't seek approval, you simply are. And in that stability, you stir the deepest layers of her feminine chaos, her craving to be chosen, her instinct to be the one, even if she has to pretend she's not competing. This is where stoicism becomes both weapon and test, because the easy route is to tease her jealousy, to provoke it, to use it as proof of your power. But you're not here for power, you're here for truth, for alignment, for connection that transcends manipulation. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." And in this moment, the enemy is ego. Yours craving the validation of making her feel less. Hers fighting to not fall apart in front of the man who makes her feel too much. Instead of inflaming the fire, you step back. You hold space. You let her silence breathe, but you don't fill it with games. Because she's watching, not just what you do with other women, but how you handle her reaction to them. She doesn't want to be told she's the only one. She wants to feel like she is by the way you don't seek anyone else's gaze. And when you meet her jealousy, not with denial, but with calm presence, she relaxes. She realizes you don't need other women's approval. You're not immune to beauty, but you're not led by it. And that's what keeps her hooked. Because in a world where men chase the next shiny object, you stay rooted. You notice, but you don't pursue. You appreciate, but you don't attach. That subtle mastery, that self-control, it tells her more than words ever could. That no matter how many women cross your path, she is the one who has your attention because you've already chosen yourself. And from that place, you choose her not out of emptiness, but out of depth. So she watches, jealous, quiet, still, but more addicted than ever. And when she sees that her presence still matters, that your stability isn't a threat but an invitation, she starts to drop the act. She begins to open again. Because deep down, she doesn't want you to chase others. She wants you to see her, even through her silence. And when you do, without giving in, without apologizing for being a man who others notice, you awaken the side of her that is most fragile and most devoted. The woman who is scared to lose you, but even more terrified that you'll never know just how much you already have her. Number 4, vulnerability without asking for help. She opens her soul to you, but frames it like a joke just to be heard. She laughs when she says it, as if the pain were nothing, as if the brokenness in her story was just another quirky anecdote. But there's a pause, a tremble she masks with a smirk, a truth hiding behind her carefully chosen words. And you feel it, that this isn't just a story. This is a signal, a woman cracking open a part of herself, but too afraid to show you the whole thing. Because the moment she starts falling for you, the moment the addiction begins, is not when you touch her body. It's when you see her wounds and refuse to flinch. But she won't hand them to you on a silver platter. She's been judged before, laughed at, left, silenced. So now she packages her pain in lightness, her trauma in timing, her darkest memory in a playful tone that says, "This doesn't really matter. Don't worry about it." But she hopes you will. She prays you will. Because addicted women don't cry in front of you. They bleed through suggestion. They open doors halfway and wait to see if you'll come in. They tell you about their father, but only the funny parts. They mention the betrayal, but only as a passing joke. They describe the sleepless nights as just being dramatic, but it's never a joke. And she's not being dramatic. She's testing the depth of your presence. Will you just hear the story, or will you listen for what's not being said? This is where most men miss the mark. They laugh with her. They move on. They avoid the discomfort. They take her cue to not go there. But a Stoic man, he feels the crack in her voice more than the words. He notices how her energy shifts when she changes the subject. He doesn't chase her pain, but he also doesn't look away. Because emotional control isn't numbness. It's the ability to sit in someone else's discomfort without needing to fix it, judge it, or run from it. As Epictetus taught, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. So you sit with her words. You hold the space. You don't rush to advise. You don't interrupt with sympathy. You stay still and see her. And that's when something divine happens. She pauses. She looks at you differently. Her voice softens. She realizes, this man didn't flinch. You didn't pity her. You didn't overreact. You simply received her, the unpolished version, and stayed grounded. And in that moment, her soul forms a thread around yours, because she knows now, if she ever truly fell apart, you would not abandon her in the rubble. Addicted women don't reveal everything at once. They test. They release little truths wrapped in sarcasm and shadows, and they watch. Can you handle her reality without trying to escape it? Can you sit with her sadness and not need to solve it? Can you see her fear and still respect her strength? That's what she craves. Not a savior, a witness. And if you give her that, your presence, your stillness, your unwavering masculine calm, you'll become the place she returns to. Not because you heal her, but because in your silence, she finally hears herself clearly. That's when the addiction takes root. That's when she trusts you with pieces of her no one else has seen. Not because you asked, but because you never had to. Because you didn't rush in to save her. You made her feel seen without being exposed, heard without being weak, understood without needing to explain. And that is a kind of love most women only dream of. But for the Stoic man, it's not a performance. It's his nature to hold space for truth, even when it's whispered, even when it comes wrapped in laughter, especially then. Number 5, subtle imitation of your essence. She mirrors your speech, adopts your beliefs, trying to merge identities silently. She doesn't say, I want to be like you. She won't compliment your mindset directly. But listen closely. You'll start hearing your own words come out of her mouth. Phrases you thought were just your quirks now live in her vocabulary. The way you describe the world now shapes hers. Your rhythm becomes her rhythm. Your lens becomes her language. This isn't coincidence, it's subconscious absorption. It's emotional mimicry born from spiritual closeness. Because when a woman is addicted to you, truly addicted, she doesn't just crave your touch, she craves your essence. It's not about copying, it's about becoming. She wants to breathe like you, decide like you, carry storms like you, calm, contained, unbothered. She studies your silence, the way you don't react, the way you choose your words like they have weight, the way you pause before responding because you're not racing to impress. And slowly she starts doing the same. Her voice drops when she speaks with purpose. Her reactions soften when she feels threatened. She stops engaging in emotional chaos, not because she's learning stoicism, but because you live it. And that's what changes her. See, you didn't preach. You didn't lecture. You simply embodied. And that embodiment becomes magnetic. The Stoic man is never chasing influence, but he gains it anyway. Not through persuasion, but through presence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. And in doing so, you create a gravitational pull, not through charm, through consistency, through the way your inner world doesn't shatter under pressure. She feels safer just by standing near your energy. She feels calmer just hearing how you speak to the world. She walks into a room differently, not because you told her to, but because you walk like a man who owns himself. And over time, this imitation becomes intimacy. It's not surface level. It's not playful mimicry. It's yearning for oneness, a desire to speak your language not just in words, but in values, to be someone who sees the world through your Stoic frame, because that frame gives her peace she never knew she was missing. Most men never catch this. They're too focused on validation, too focused on, does she like me? They miss the fact that she's already mirroring them because something in her has decided you are the emotional blueprint she needs. You don't need to teach, you need to remain rooted, remain quiet in your strength, remain committed to your values, not to impress her, but to honor yourself. And in doing so, you give her something no other man has, an example of inner mastery. And when she starts reflecting that back in her tone, her choices, her discipline, don't mock it, don't claim it, don't take pride in it, just recognize. You've been seen, you've been felt, you've entered her subconscious, not through manipulation, but through truth. She doesn't just want to be with you, she wants to be more like you, not to lose herself, but to rise. And when that happens, you're no longer just a man to her. You're a mirror of who she wants to become, a reminder of the grounded woman hidden underneath her chaos. And that's when you know. Her desire runs deeper than attraction. It has become transformation. Number 6, devotion that resists logic. She stays when it makes no sense to stay, because something deeper than reason binds her. She knows she shouldn't. The nights feel colder. The distance between your words stretches longer. You don't always answer. You don't always explain. And yet, she doesn't leave. Her friends tell her to walk away. Her mind screams that you're too detached, too unreadable. But her soul sits quietly in the corner of her heart, whispering, stay. There's something more. This is the addiction that Stoic men don't create on purpose, but inevitably ignite. It's not the kind that screams in desperation. It's the kind that lingers in silence, not because you gave her constant attention, but because you gave her depth, a feeling that even if you're absent, you are present. She knows you won't chase her. She knows your life moves with or without her, and still she waits, not because she lacks options, but because none of them feel like you. That's when you know. She's not just attracted. She's not even just in love. She's devoted in a way that logic cannot explain and that most men never experience. This kind of devotion is not built through romantic gestures. It's built in the quiet strength of a man who doesn't waver. Because when she tried to test you, you didn't react. When she tried to seduce your attention, you didn't chase. When she pulled away emotionally, you didn't collapse. And in that stillness, she saw something the world never showed her. A man who doesn't need her but still values her. A man whose discipline doesn't fade under pressure. A man whose love isn't theatrical but real. And so she stays, not because you've trapped her, but because you've liberated her from the cycle of emotional chaos she once thought was love. You showed her that love doesn't have to be loud. It can be unspoken. It can be grounded. It can be the feeling of coming home even in the middle of uncertainty. She feels your presence in your absence. She remembers your voice in her moments of doubt, not because you were always available, but because you were always authentic, as Marcus Aurelius wrote. Never esteem anything as of advantage to you that will make you break your word or lose your self-respect. You never broke for her, and that paradoxically is why she can't let go. Women become addicted not to the man who gives them everything, but to the man who gives them himself without losing himself. And here's the deeper truth: she wants you to lead. Not by domination, but by example. By your ability to feel emotion without drowning in it. To love without losing structure. To care without collapsing. When she realizes that nothing she does can destabilize your essence, she begins to trust you with something sacred, her surrender, not in the way society defines it, not as weakness, but as the deepest form of feminine power, to lay down her walls in the presence of a man who doesn't need to tear them down. That's what makes her stay. Through confusion, through uncertainty, through moments where every voice says, "You deserve more." Because even if your love doesn't come wrapped in constant attention, it comes anchored in truth. And truth, once felt, cannot be unfelt. It marks her, it bonds her. It silences the noise of the world that tells her she needs more validation, more gifts, more control. You didn't promise forever. You didn't offer fairy tales. But you gave her one thing most men are too afraid to offer: a mirror. And in you, she saw a version of herself she was proud to be around. So she stays, even when it makes no sense. And most men will never realize how close they were to having this, and how quickly they broke character when it got uncomfortable. But not you. You held. You remained. You became the man she couldn't walk away from, not because of need, but because of depth. She may never say it out loud, but her soul already has. So now you know, it's not always the loud ones who are obsessed, not the ones who chase you, text you at 2 a.m. or post dramatic stories when you're silent. The women truly addicted to you, the ones who feel you in their blood, in their breath, in the quiet of their unspoken thoughts. They don't announce their feelings. They leak them in behavior. They stay loyal when the world turns. They pick fights to feel your fire again. They watch you and every woman around you with eyes they pretend are indifferent. They tell you their trauma through laughter. They start talking like you, moving like you, becoming parts of you. And when it all falls apart, when logic begs them to walk, they stay. But here's the danger: you'll miss it. Unless you learn to read between the lines. Unless you grow into the kind of man who doesn't need fireworks to know a flame is burning. This is why Stoicism matters. Because when you learn to hold your frame, when you stop needing validation, when you can feel her without reacting, hear her without fixing, see her without clinging, you stop chasing addiction and you start triggering it. Not through games, through depth, through inner mastery, through living a philosophy that says, I do not need to possess her to move her. So don't look for obvious signs. Look for shifts in her tone, in her energy, in the way she goes quiet but stays close. Because when a woman is addicted to you, she won't always tell you, but she'll start losing herself in the space between your presence and your silence. And in that space, you'll realize the deepest kind of power a man can hold. To change her without touching her, to be remembered without asking to be, to stay in her mind long after she's tried to forget. You don't chase that, you become that. And when you do, she'll carry you with her in every man she meets after you, not because of what you gave her, but because of who you were. Some lessons aren't learned in chaos, but in the silence you leave behind. Most men never realize they're in a trap. They confuse affection with depth, intensity, with love and hope, with proof. They keep giving not because she's asking, but because they're afraid of what happens when they stop. But you're not most men. You've seen behind the veil. You've watched how charm can hide control, how softness can seduce surrender, and how the wrong woman can mirror your wounds in the name of love. You've learned that not every connection deserves your peace, that not every woman who feels right is right, and most importantly, that your soul is not a battleground for someone else's healing. This is where Stoic men separate from the rest. They don't fight, they don't fix, they free themselves. Because to walk away quietly without resentment or noise is not weakness, it's mastery. If this message awakened something in you, a realization you've long buried, a strength you've nearly forgotten, then you already know. This isn't the end of something, it's the beginning of your return to yourself. For more truths that sharpen your edge and restore your center, subscribe to the channel. No noise, no chasing, just depth for men who've decided they won't lose themselves again. Welcome back.